Hey everyone, Ronan here. Listen, remember that survey I did on the community tab a couple of weeks ago? Well, this is my response to it. So after looking over your guys' votes, it seems that quality is what you guys prefer. So with that being said, I've made a lot of efforts to improve my editing skills over the last couple of months, and I'm working every video and every time I get a chance to sit down to watch more editing tutorials to get better. But I'm also going to be working on the lengths of the videos as well. I'm pushing for around a 20-minute mark for every video, not even including the intros and outros. So with that being said, because I'm getting used to this new formula, it may interrupt the weekly uploading schedule. I'm going to do my best to make sure that that doesn't happen. But because I'm trying to become better at telling stories in longer parts, this is definitely something that's going to have to be worked on. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into part 3 of What If Indigo Champion Ash challenged the Johto League. Today, we pick back up with Team Gary. They are on the road to AZALEA Town and have been traveling for about a week. During this time, Ethan and Gary have been putting in some serious training. Gary has been focusing hard on his time with Eevee and Elekid, while Ethan has been focusing on his overall development of his battle style. Ethan is still in the phase in which he hasn't quite figured out all of his Pokemon on his team. Quilava and Beedrill have somewhat of an aggressive personality, which Ethan easily synergizes with, but Sentret and Bellsprout have proven the exact opposite. Bellsprout is more laid back and prefers to go with the flow, as it prefers to explore and analyze the battle before making its move. With Ethan being a new trainer, he still has an impatient streak about him. This is another quality that reminds Gary of Ash, but Gary, being as patient as he is, guides Ethan through it. It is proving to be rather taxing at times. While all this is going on, Marina has been documenting every Pokemon she comes across. This isn't without its challenges of its own. Her Totodile has proved to be somewhat aggressive, and as a result, whenever encountering a wild Pokemon, half of Marina's time is spent trying to prevent Totodile from attacking them. This behavior has caused Marina to second guess her choice of start. She was wanting something that would help her document Pokemon, not try and eat them. But once again, Gary has some words of wisdom for Marina. He tells her that some of the best ways to document Pokemon is to catch them. Maybe if Marina tries this with Totodile, she could satisfy its urge to battle and collect some really unique data. Marina is pessimistic about this advice at first, as she isn't like Ethan, just buying into everything that Gary says. But after a few more days of things she tries not working, she eventually gives in and does what Gary suggested. And on her very first encounter with a Sunkern, her and her Totodile battle it. This actually turns out to be quite well, as during the battle, Marina finds herself slightly enjoying the activity. Not to the point to where she'd want to take a gym challenge or anything, but enough to where she would consider it in the future for some fun. As a result, she ended up catching Sunkern, and to her surprise, after the battle, Totodile was more inclined to help her with her documentation of Sunkern. Gary was right, Totodile just needed to let off some energy, but Marina will never admit it to him. Now, while trying to what has been called the patented Marina Pokemon catching technique and researching method, Marina is able to add a Hoot Hoot and a Jigglypuff to her team as research assistants. Gary has also been busy learning as much as possible about Johto Pokemon. He has also managed to catch a Skarmory in the mountains just outside of AZALEA Town. The new steel typing has piqued his interest, and he wants to learn as much as possible about it. Ethan has added a new member to his team as well. During their trip to AZALEA Town, Ethan came across a wild Wooper that stole his Pokeballs and was trying to replicate a ritual that the wild Quagsire in the area perform every year for good luck. But its water gun wasn't powerful enough to push any of Ethan's balls to the top of the waterfall. And after an exhausting string of events, Ethan gets his Pokeballs back and uses Sentret to battle. Ethan was starting to pick up on Sentret's battering style, and as a result of Sentret feeling completely synced with its trainer, it evolved, allowing Ethan to capture Wooper. Now our trio moves on to AZALEA Town. Their first step is Kurt, the Pokeball Master Maker, as Professor Oak suggested that Gary go see him if he gets the chance. While nothing too eventful happens with their visit, Gary and his team do get the chance to explore a part of Ilex Forest with Kurt, to where they see the Ilex Shrine. Kurt explains that it's dedicated to the guardian of the forest, Celebi, where they encounter a suspicious character who's snooping around the shrine, taking samples of the surrounding area. After Ethan and Quilava chase off the intruder, Kurt thanks him and Gary. Then, he offers the three of them some custom Pokeballs for helping protect the shrine. Gary gets a fastball, Marina gets a love ball, and Ethan gets a level ball. With that, the trio head to the AZALEA Town gym to challenge Bugsy. This time, Ethan wants to go first, as he's feeling more confident about his win at the Violet Gym. Upon learning that Bugsy is a bug-type trainer, Ethan gets a little overconfident, thinking Quilava will be able to sweep this gym. Bugsy leads with his newly evolved Beedrill. After Bugsy's battle with Ash, he went into training overload, and now we are seeing the results. Ethan sends out a Quilava, thinking that he has such an easy match, but this mindset has given him a false sense of security, which Gary had warned him about. The battle does come down to the wire, but ultimately, Quilava falls as Beedrill has way more battle experience. This kinda shakes Ethan, as he was expecting a clean sweep, but the battle has to go on, and Ethan sends in his Beedrill. His Beedrill is able to take down Bugsy's due to the battle with Quilava. Bugsy then chooses to send in Spinnerack. The Pokemon proves to be problematic for Ethan, Ethan and Beedrill. Its ability to move around with string shot and dodge attacks to increase its speed caught them off guard. As a result, Beedrill follows the Spinnerack after it gets caught up in the webbing, becoming immobile. Ethan is now getting overwhelmed and decides to send in Furt. Now, while this might be a good idea on paper, the reality is, after its evolution, Furt's personality and battle style changed, and Ethan still hasn't figured it out yet, causing him to fall out of sync with Furt, and again, costing him the match. Bugsy tells Ethan that he did well, but he seems to lack the basic understanding of his Pokemon, so he should train with them a little bit more and then come back and re-challenge the gym. Bugsy then bids them farewell, but Gary stops him. "Hey Bugsy," he exclaims, "I'll be here tomorrow to challenge you." Bugsy asks who he is, and Gary introduces himself. Bugsy says, "Wow, a lot of high-profile trainers have been through here lately. First, the Indigo champion Ash, and now you?" Gary, kinda shocked, says, "Ash has been through here?" Bugsy says, "Yeah, his battle was pretty intense, but it's clear why he's the champion." Gary tells Bugsy that he will be his first opponent tomorrow, and leaves, thinking to himself, if Ash has already gotten to Azalea Town, that means that he's already got to be on his 3rd or 4th badge. He must really be motivated, which just motivates Gary even more. After all, they are rivals. The next morning, Gary, Ethan, and Marina head back to the gym. Ethan is intent on watching the battle after losing to Bugsy the previous day. Gary and Bugsy take their position on the battlefield. Bugsy leads with his Spinnerack. Gary figured he might use that or Beedrill, so Gary sends in his Elekid. The battle gets underway, and it's a lot less one-sided like the one with Ethan. Gary took the time to get to know Elekid since his battle at the Violet City gym. Ethan can see this and is now beating himself up inside, not getting to know his Pokemon fully. Though the battle is close, Elekid is able to put down Spinnerack. Bugsy is impressed and tells Gary he expected nothing less from the grandson of the great Professor Oak. He then sends in his next Pokemon, Venomoth. Gary chooses to leave in Elekid. This battle is over pretty quick, as Elekid is pretty tired after its battle with Spinnerack. But before Elekid goes down, it manages to put some damage on Venomoth. Gary recalls it and wastes no time in sending in his next choice, and he sends in his new Skarmory. This battle is one-sided, as Venomoth is part poison, and Skarmory, being a steel type, has immunity to it, and Skarmory takes down Venomoth with a steel wing. Bugsy is impressed. He wants to see how far this will go, so he sends in his newest evolved Pokemon, Scizor. After the battle with Ash, he realized he really needed to up his game, so he evolved his Scyther into Scizor, giving it the battling offensive and defensive capabilities that it needed. Gary chooses to recall Skarmory. Bugsy isn't surprised by this. Gary then leads with his final Pokemon, Arcanine. Gary is looking to test the durability of the Bug Steel type. This battle is a long one, and Arcanine gets some great hits in, like a Flame Wheel and a Fire Blast. But Bugsy and Scizor have been working on its defenses to Fire-type moves. They are far stronger than when they fought Ash. With this new defense and power from evolution, Scizor is able to put up a decent fight against Arcanine. In the end, the battle results in a double knockout when a Flame Wheel collides with the Metal Claw. But since Gary still has Skarmory, he is declared the winner, earning him the Hive badge. Back at the Pokemon Center, after Gary's battle, Ethan is down. Gary and Marina approach him and ask him what's wrong. Ethan tells them that he feels like he let them down after losing the gym battle. Gary was able to win the battle so easily, but he lost. Then, the comment Bugsy made is also getting to him. Gary tells Ethan that it's good that it's getting to him. That means you care, which means you can grow. Ethan looks at Gary. "You think so?" he says. Gary says, "Yes, I know someone just like you, and his drive to get better led him to capture a championship." Ethan says, "You mean Ash?" Gary says, "Yes. Even though he's the Kanto champion, he was always behind me and the other trainers from Palatown, but he used it as motivation to push to the top." Ethan then asks, "Then what do we do?" Gary says, "That's simple. We train." So over the next week, they spend some time in Elix Forest, mostly at night, as that's when the bug Pokemon come out. This training is fruitful for all 3 members of Team Gary. Marina gets to document a lot of new Pokemon. Ethan got to battle with them and learn about the bug types, and his Wooper also evolved during this time. But Gary also has some success as well. When training at night, his Eevee evolved into Umbreon. Gary knew it was close to evolving, so he is hyped for this. Also, Gary's Elekid learned Thunder Punch. After about a week of training, Ethan feels a little bit more confident in challenging Bugsy again. Ethan and the group then return to the gym, and Bugsy has been expecting his return. But upon entering, a familiar face exits the gym. It's Vincent. He just beat Bugsy and earned his 2nd badge, smugly looking at Gary. Then Vincent asks if they are there to challenge for their 2nd badge, thinking he has a lead on the group. But Marina just yells out, Gary already won his badge, but Ethan is here for a rematch. This embarrasses Ethan and frustrates Vincent, as he was hoping to be ahead of Gary. Vincent decides to stick around as he wants to watch the match with his childhood friend as he Bugsy battles the gym. Bugsy is happy to see Ethan back and asks if he is ready for his rematch. Ethan says he is, and the two trainers take their position in the battlefield. Bugsy decides to lead with a new Pokemon that he had caught, Shuckle. Ethan uses the Pokedex and he learns that it is a bug rock type. He thinks, great, I don't have anything that can directly counter it, but he is here to battle, so he has to, and he sends in Bellsprout, thinking the grass type would at least offer some sort of balance to the battle. The battle is a long and drawn out one. Bugsy has taught Shuckle Defense Curl, so the damage from Bellsprout is minimized, but Ethan does have an ace. Bellsprout knows Poison Powder and successfully applies it to Shuckle, so then it becomes a battle of endurance. Unfortunately, Bellsprout isn't equipped for this long drawn out battle and falls to Shuckle, but Shuckle is heavily fatigued due to the poison. This makes it easy to take out Shuckle on the crackback when Ethan sends in Quilava and hits Shuckle with the Flame Wheel. Bugsy then answers Quilava with his Beedrill. Ethan thinks for a second, then he recalls Quilava and sends in Fur. Ethan has a plan to battle Beedrill and it gets underway. Bugsy orders a Poison Sting, but Ethan smiles and orders a Dig to dodge it. This isn't something that Fur could do until it had trained in the Ilex Forest, and this becomes the theme of the battle, and with the use of its other new move, Headbutt, it is able to turn the tide of the battle and take down Beedrill. Bugsy is impressed. Ethan has made great project in this past week. Vincent is also a little bit impressed. Having Gary around has been beneficial for Ethan, although he would never admit it. Bugsy then makes the selection for his last Pokemon, and as expected, it's Scizor. The battle starts, and Ferd is able to use Dig to its advantage and cause damage to Scizor, but ultimately, the Steel Bug is able to put it down with Metal Claw and its superior speed. Ethan is down to his final Pokemon, so he sends back in Quilava. Bugsy, already familiar with Quilava, starts the battle. The two Pokemon hit each other hard. This game is mostly a physical one. The fruits of the training are starting to show though. During the week, Ethan and Gary focused on Quilava's endurance, and during their training, they were able to access that strange red glowing that had happened in the Violet City gym, and they realized that it powered up Quilava's fire type moves. So they focused on training that ability. And again, it happened during the battle, and it gives Ethan and Quilava just enough of an edge to take the battle from Bugsy, earning him the Hive Badge. After everything is said and done, Vincent tells Ethan that he's impressed with the battle, and tells Gary that he will win their next battle. Then he takes off. With that, Team Gary makes their way to Goldenrod City. During the trek there, Ethan's Bellsprout evolves into a Weepinbell and has grown a bit more aggressive upon the evolution, something Ethan has to learn to deal with, but something he's up to. Once arriving in Goldenrod, Marina immediately wants to see the Pokemon department store. It's famous for having lots of equipment to help trainers and field researchers alike. Ethan wants to challenge the gym, but Gary says it would be good to stock up on supplies, and he gets outvoted. Ethan relents, and they head to the department store. After what seems like hours of waiting, while Gary and Marina are shopping, Ethan meets a young girl who is super impatient. Ethan and her get to talking, and the girl introduces herself as Whitney. She is waiting on her grandfather. He's a miltake farmer, buying supplies for his ranch. Ethan tells her that he's waiting on his friends as well. They wanted to go shopping, but he wanted to head straight to the gym and challenge the gym leader. He doesn't have knowledge of where the gym is. This piques Whitney's interest. So, you're here to challenge the gym, are you? Well, I could show you where the gym is when your friends are done. Ethan peeks up. Really? He says. Whitney says, sure, but in the meantime, why don't we have a battle to pass the time? Ethan is always down for a battle and immediately accepts. Whitney says that she would like to have a 3-on-3, and Ethan has no problem with this. Whitney says great and takes the first move as she sends in her first Pokemon, Clefairy. Ethan sends out his Weepinbell and the battle starts, and it immediately becomes apparent that Weepinbell and its aggressive nature is too much for Clefairy to handle after it takes a Vine Whip and runs away from a Razor Leaf. Whitney recalls it as it runs away and concedes the battle. Ethan is happy about the win, but Weepinbell didn't really listen to Ethan. It just attacked without orders. Whitney sends in her next Pokemon, Furret. Ethan tells Whitney that Furret is a good choice. Whitney says, really? Ethan says, you know, I have one of those myself. Whitney says, well then, I would like to see it, as she orders Furret to use Slam, which Weepinbell takes full force, because Ethan didn't give it any commands. Because of this, Weepinbell attacks Sporadic, not listening to Ethan, and eventually, he has to return it, forfeiting the battle. Ethan apologizes for Weepinbell. He's not quite used to it yet since its evolution. Whitney says he might want to work on that. It could cost him his gym battle. Ethan says, maybe, but he wants to get back to their battle, so he sends in his Furret. Whitney is interested in Ethan's Furret, and the battle gets underway, but it quickly becomes apparent that Whitney's Furret is stronger than Ethan's, as it is superior in speed. But Ethan does have one thing working for him. His Furret has defense. It keeps taking hits from Whitney's Furret, and from its fatigue, Whitney's Furret starts to slow down. Whitney knows she needs to end it, so she orders a Slam, but Ethan orders a Dig to dodge, and this opens up Whitney's Furret, and Ethan orders a Headbutt that connects, and Ethan's Furret is barely able to knock out Whitney's, winning the second part of this battle. But Furret is exhausted, breathing very heavily. Whitney commends Ethan on overpowering her Furret. She really thought she had that one, but her next one won't go down so easily, as she sends in her ace, Miltank. Ethan is confident that this battle battle is in the bag, so he orders Furret to attack with a headbutt. Furret executes the attack, but Miltank just takes the attack and counters it with a stomp that immediately knocks out Furret. Ethan is a little shaken by this. Miltank definitely lives up to the tank in its name, but the thought of a tough battle then starts to excite Ethan, and he wants to match power, so he sends in Quilava. Whitney is excited herself. She didn't think this battle would be as much fun as it has been, so she orders a rollout that comes in with blinding speed and hits Quilava. But this super effective move doesn't impede the two, as Ethan and Quilava are excited so much that they return the favor with the Flame Wheel. And this is pretty much how the battle goes for the two Pokemon, pitting the moves Rollout and Flame Wheel against each other. The battle is starting to draw a crowd with its intensity. Neither Pokemon wants to give in, and as a result, and as the battle reaches its climax, Ethan notices Gary and Marina in the crowd. Whitney notices that his enthusiasm is divided, so she calls the match. Ethan tries to persuade her to continue, but she declines. After the cloud disperses, Ethan introduces Whitney to his friends. Gary tells Ethan that that battle was impressive. He watched almost the whole thing, but with that intense of a battle, he won't be able to challenge the gym today. Whitney says sorry. When she gets into a battle, she really gets into it, and she pushes as hard as possible. Whitney offers to take them to the Pokemon Center for the night so they can rest, and in the morning, she will take them to the gym. The next day, they all head to the gym. Once there, they head inside. They are greeted by the tenant of the gym. She is spending a lot of time talking with Whitney. Then, Whitney comes over to Ethan and says, "Here." She presents him with the plain badge. Ethan looks at Whitney in puzzlement. Whitney says, "Oh, I forgot to mention, I'm the gym leader of the Goldenrod Gym, and I really enjoyed our battle yesterday. So much so that I think you've earned this." Ethan says, "But I didn't actually win." Whitney responds that the battle was really close. Too close to call, so you very well could have taken the match. Ethan looks at Whitney. Then Gary. Gary responds, "Looks like you got the gym battle you wanted. Go ahead, take it." With excitement that he can't contain, Ethan takes the badge. Then Whitney turns to Gary. "So I hear you're here to challenge me as well." Gary says, "Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to it." Now we pick up with Team Ash. The time that Ash and Misty has been spent training has been fruitful. They're about 6 weeks into the 2 months of training session that Ash has chosen to embark on. Charizard's growth has been huge with Ash here training with it. Ash's other Pokemon have all benefited from the training as well. Bayleaf most of all, as his training with the wild Charizard has helped it develop somewhat of a resistance to fire type moves, giving it much more endurance than it would normally have had. Ash, thinking that he needed to help Charizard with its type coverage, has been working on a new move with Thunder Punch. Misty and her Pokemon have been great test subjects for this new move. Speaking of Misty, she has been spending majority of her time in the water part of the valley, training with her Pokemon, particularly with her new Poliwhirl and Gyarados. Her training has been fruitful, as well, as she has managed to teach Poliwhirl Ice Punch to counter Ash's Bayleaf, plus other grass types. During the final days of Ash's training, he's in a part of the valley where the water is most prevalent, and he and Gligar are doing one-on-one training. Gligar uses a guillotine on a rock wall that causes a rock slide that happens to slide into the water right off the shore. Ash is impressed with Gligar's power, and he praises it for the accomplishment, not thinking anything about the rocks hitting the water. As Ash and Gligar are laughing about it, the two are hit in the face with the water gun. Shocked, they look around, and at the edge of the water, on the land, Ash sees a Pokemon, and it looks angry. Ash uses his Pokedex, and the Pokemon is identified as an Octillery. Ash tries to apologize for what happened, but the Octillery isn't listening, and it continues to attack Ash and Gligar. Ash, realizing that he is going to have to battle, and his only Pokemon with him at the moment is Gligar, as the rest are back in the main part of the valley. Ash orders Gligar to attack with a move that he learned during training, Fury Cutter. This connects, but Octillery has a sponge-like quality to it, and the move does very little damage. When Gligar connects with the Fury Cutter, Octillery uses its many tentacles to wrap around it and pulls Gligar into the water. As the two go under, Ash realizes Gligar is in trouble, and he calls for a Poison Sting. Moments later, Gligar emerges back on the land, coughing really hard, trying to catch his breath, followed by Octillery, and it looks pissed, but it appears that the Poison Sting has had some added effects and poisoned Octillery. Ash asks Gligar if it can still battle, and it nods. Octillery then uses its trademark Octazooka, and Ash orders a dodge. Now, Ash has to figure out a way to attack. If Gligar gets in close, it could get caught again and pulled back into the water. Problem is Gligar only has moves that it can attack with up close. Ash then realizes if he just stalls enough, the poison might do what it does best. Ash then orders a quick attack from Gligar, and it is able to get in with some damage, but it just barely gets out of the way. Octillery then fires another Octazooka, and Ash orders Gligar to cut through it with a guillotine. The battle repeats this pattern until both Pokemon are on the verge of collapsing. Octillery is tough, and this battle makes Ash want to capture it. He throws a Pokeball at it, and after 1, 2, 3, he has added Octillery to his team. After bringing it back to the main part of the valley and having Liza heal it up, Ash spends some time trying to get to know it. Octillery is not happy about being caught, and every time Ash gets close, it just gets hit in the face with a water gun. This, in turn, frustrates Bayleaf, and it attacks Octillery with a Razor Leaf, asserting its position as Ash's protector. This is the start of a rivalry between Octillery and Bayleaf. Now comes the day when Ash must leave the valley. It's time he and Misty meet Brock in Violet City, where Ash hopes to get his second badge. But there's a problem. When Ash goes to recall Charizard, it does not want to return. After some arguing with Charizard and an intervention from Liza, Ash decides to leave Charizard in the Charcific Valley to train for longer. Ash has come to realize that he will need it in top physical condition the next time he takes on Giovanni. With that, Misty and Ash make their way to Violet City. Once they arrive, it's close to nightfall. Ash will have to wait for the morning to challenge the gym. When Jesse and James try to capture Pikachu, it is saved by a trainer and his Pidgeot. Upon introductions, they find out that this trainer is Faulkner, the leader of the Violet City gym. Ash tells him that he is here as a challenger, challenge for his second badge. Faulkner then asks Ash if he is the same Ash that won the Indigo Championship. Ash says yes, excitedly. Faulkner very confidently, if I remember correctly, you have a Pidgeot, don't you? Ash confirms this. Faulkner tells Ash the only way he would accept his challenge is if he brings his Pidgeot to the battle. Ash tells Faulkner he can't do that. As a gym leader, he has to accept any and all challenges that are on reasonable grounds. You can't just refuse it if I don't accept to use my Pidgeot. Faulkner says true, but as the champion, I thought you would like to test the strength of the two Pokemon to see which is better. This does appeal to Ash's competitive nature. He says, okay, I'll accept your conditions, but you have to accept mine. Faulkner then says, okay, what are they? Ash says simple, I want a full 6-on-6 battle. This catches Faulkner off guard, but he says, okay, you got it, Ash. Tomorrow, at noon, here at the gym. That night, Ash calls for Pidgeot. Ash doesn't change out any of his other Pokemon, much to Misty's protest. Ash tells her, didn't you say I couldn't always just rely on my older Pokemon? Well, that's what I'm doing. Misty gets quiet because she knows Ash is right. Ash then plans for his battle. The next day, Ash and Misty head to the gym. Misty says she wonders where Brock is. He should have been here by now. Ash says true. They will follow up with Professor Elm after his gym battle. Once they reach the gym, Faulkner greets them and takes them up to the battlefield. The two trainers take their position and Faulkner leads with his newly evolved Noctowl. Ash wants to take an early lead, so he sends in Pikachu, and the electric mouse does just that. After its speed gives the advantage to it, it hits Noctowl with a Thunderbolt, putting it down. Faulkner is unfazed as he thought this might happen, so to counter Pikachu, he sends in his Gligar. Ash knows full well that this is at a disadvantage, so he recalls Pikachu and sends in his own Gligar. Faulkner is excited about this revelation, and the battle gets underway. This battle isn't as one-sided as the last one was. Faulkner actually taught his Gligar Steel Wing, which gives him a slight advantage, piquing Ash's interest in the move. In the end, after taking some damage, Ash's Gligar manages to put down Faulkner's Gligar with a Guillotine, as it had a slight speed advantage, bringing Ash to a 2-0 victory over Faulkner so far. Ash then asks Faulkner what happened to all that confidence you had. Two of his Pokemon are down, while he hasn't lost any. Faulkner says, while he must admit that the 6-on-6 battle are something that he's not too familiar with, Ash must not worry, as he still has plenty of fight. Faulkner then sends in his Skarmory. Ash, unfamiliar with this Pokemon, takes out his Pokedex and learns that it is a Steel type. He asks Gligar if he can still battle, and it nods, but it's short-lived, as Skarmory's defense is too much and Gligar can't handle it, and eventually falls to a Steel Wing. This doesn't faze Ash, so he sends in his next Pokemon, Octillery. Once it's out, Ash tries to give it a command, but it doesn't listen. When Faulkner orders Skarmory to attack, Octillery then makes the choice to latch onto Skarmory, and all of a sudden, it's ready to battle. But not to Ash's orders. It fires an Octazooka after an Octazooka at Skarmory, causing some damage, but Skarmory is able to free itself and attacks with Steel Wing repeatedly. Eventually, Ash recalls out of embarrassment, and Faulkner disqualified it for misconduct it performed as a competitor. Ash doesn't even dispute this. Faulkner then urges Ash to send in his next Pokemon. Ash then sends in Bayleaf. This throws Faulkner off a little bit. He didn't think that Ash would be so foolish enough to send in something with such a type disadvantage. Ash says, don't underestimate my Bayleaf, as the battle starts. Bayleaf ends up taking a few hits, but when Faulkner gets overconfident, Bayleaf catches Skarmory in a Vine Rip, slamming it to the ground, knocking it out. Faulkner tells Ash that he was impressed, as he sends in his next Pokemon, a Natu. The small Pokemon is so timid that Ash isn't even afraid of it, but this would cost him, as its psychic typing catches him and Bayleaf off guard, and eventually Bayleaf gets taken out. Ash then sends back in Pikachu, and the battle is quickly back in Ash's favor, as Pikachu hits Natu with a Thunderbolt, knocking it out. But Faulkner wastes no time and counters when he sends in Dodrio, and Ash, thinking he can take another easy win, leaves in Pikachu. But Dodrio's ability to jump and outmaneuver Pikachu, allowing its aggression to take it down. With the battle all tied up, Ash decides to send in his Wartortle, hoping his defense would be enough. Wartortle proves to be durable enough to take the hits from Dodrio and fires back with Hydro Pumps. But in the end, Dodrio's aggressive personality gives it the edge and Wartortle 2 falls. Ash, with no other options, says, "Okay Faulkner, the moment you've been waiting for," as he sends in his Pidgeot. Ash then orders Pidgeot to attack with the wing attack, one-shotting Dodrio in the process. Ash smugly replies, "See Faulkner, that's what real speed looks like." Faulkner, still confident, says, "We'll see Ash," as he sends in his Pidgeot. The two Pokemon take to the sky as Faulkner is able to counter Ash perfectly, and it quickly becomes apparent that Faulkner's Pidgeot is faster. Faulkner uses its agility to outspeed Ash's and hits it with the wing attack, knocking Ash's Pidgeot to the ground. Faulkner smiles, knowing that he has an advantage, but Ash just smiles back, saying it's not over, as his Pidgeot stands back up and takes to the sky. Faulkner doesn't get it. That was a direct hit and it should have won. Ash tells him his Pidgeot has more endurance than it looks, as Ash orders a quick attack, catching Faulkner off guard. Then, to cause even more damage, Ash orders a double edge. This connects with more force than wing attack, forcing Faulkner's Pidgeot to the ground. Ash's Pidgeot does take some recoil, but otherwise seems unfazed. But Faulkner's Pidgeot is a different story. With the double edge and the impact to the ground, his Pidgeot appears to be unable to fly. Ash sees this and orders another double edge. As his Pidgeot rushes in, it comes within inches of contact when Faulkner recalls his Pidgeot. Ash is confused. The battle isn't over, he yells. Faulkner says, "Yes it is. I concede. I'd rather lose the gym battle than force my flying type Pokemon that couldn't fly to battle." Faulkner then presents Ash with the Zephyr badge, but cautions him. "Ash, you were willing to win at all costs today. I genuinely enjoyed battling you until that last battle. When your opponent was already down, you still intended to attack. You need to watch that, because one day someone could get hurt." With that, they part ways. Ash can't help to think about what Faulkner said. During the walk back to the Pokemon Center, Ash is super quiet. All he can think about is what Faulkner said to him, but his thoughts are interrupted when he hears a familiar voice. "Hey Ash!" He looks up, and there, in front of the Pokemon Center, stands Brock, and he is holding 3 strange things. Once they get closer, there are 3 eggs inside of incubators. Brock tells them they are gifts from Professor Elm. Brock says that's the reason why it took him a little bit longer to get here. He had to be extra careful not to damage them, so he hands one to Misty and one to Ash, leaving them to wonder what's inside. And that's all we have for part 3. I want to know what you guys think. How do you feel about the direction that Team Gary is headed in? About Ethan and his struggles to understand his Pokemon and develop his own battling style? And of course, how Gary and Marina are doing as well. And how do you feel about Ash and his developments as well? His decision to still leave Charizard in the Charasipic Valley, even though he knows Giovanni is a threat. And also his new addition to his team in Octillery. And also his gym battle with Faulkner. And the decision to try and attack his opponent when he was down. And most of all, what do you think are in the 3 eggs that Professor Elm gave the trio? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you guys enjoyed the video, please make sure to drop a like, as it really helps the channel grow. And don't forget to subscribe. And also, if you guys enjoy Pokemon What Ifs, please don't forget to join the Discord in the link below, as there's a lot of people in there that have the same interests that you do. And also, if you would like to get a behind the scenes look of what I'm working on, please follow me on Twitter, as I post things there that I'm working on in real time, so you can see what I'm actually working on. But anyway, I'm Ronin Charizard, and I'll see you in the next video.